There's somebody out there that needs to hear your story and your message, and it's going to stick, and it's going to change their life in profound ways that we cannot even fathom or imagine today. So here's my challenge to you. I dare you to put perfectionism in the backseat. Kick it to the freaking curb. I dare you to face and charge your bear head on.
Welcome to Inspiration Contagion, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each interview spotlights transformational business leaders, their stories, challenges, and advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. Learn how you too can achieve peak performance, build more revenue, and lead the legacy you were meant to lead.
First of all, I want to say I see you, I hear you, I get how scary it is to be seen and to be heard. The biggest objection and concern and fear that I hear from business owners and speakers is this vulnerability and fear of sharing their most intimate stories and messages on social media, on live platforms, on a webinar, and especially on a physical live stage. But here's the deal. That story that you're hiding behind because of perfectionism, you're not ready to share it, you're afraid to share it, you're concerned you might be emotional. That is actually the story your audience, your prospective clients, and your community needs to hear. The thing that we are best at teaching, the experiences that we've had that have taught us in this life, are basically the teachers and the lessons we need for our own medicine. But in particular, that's creating the storyline and the magnet to attract our perfect clients. So stop blaming the platform. Stop with all the excuses that your message isn't important. Stop telling yourself you need to have the perfect message, the perfect branding, the perfect image. First of all, perfection does not exist. So get rid of that concept and start recovering from your perfectionism and stop letting it be a block to sharing your story. We all have a story that's important and valuable. And if you recall back to caveman times, we learned how to survive through sharing our stories. I don't understand why we have lost this concept. Yes, we live in modern times, and while our stories might not save somebody from being eaten by a tiger or a lion, our stories can still have healing, important, powerful effects based on what we are brilliant at doing. If you're a business consultant, perhaps you help a business owner, salvage their company from going out of business. Perhaps you help somebody who's a speaker share their message and it actually heals millions of people. Perhaps you work with a nonprofit to help them with, giving education access to children in other countries. It matters. It is equally important, just back into caveman times, that we share our stories because guess what? Stories stick. Anytime we're teaching somebody, when we share a story, it's much more powerful than anything else. So how can I land this home for you? I remember being so nervous about sharing my TEDx message on stage. A few reasons. One, it was a different type of a scripted. I had to follow a script. I am much more a natural speaker. I like to feel the energy of the crowd and shift and pivot where I can. I also got a lot of feedback when I was practicing with my fellow TEDx speakers that I wasn't showing the emotion when I was practicing and rehearsing that I wanted to impress upon the audience. It didn't feel real to them. And I wanted it to feel real because it's a powerful story. And then I also needed to figure out a way to help it make that story relatable to people who had not faced a mama bear in the woods. So this was really challenging. It was really scary, but I was committed. This was on my bucket list. I wanted to make this happen. And I knew that this was a powerful story for everyone to hear. So my famous bear story, for those of you that have not heard it, if you haven't, you should watch the TED Talk. That's why I did it. I was going through a divorce. I was still navigating chronic pain in my life. I had allowed pain to become the focal point of my life. Became my identity. I was struggling with the divorce and finding myself again. I was in a very verbally abusive marriage for many years. And so I was finding myself again, finding my voice, finding my freedom, finding out who I was. And part of that process was doing a codependency program and getting support around that and doing a step study around that. And one of the steps in a step study program, regardless of what you're healing from, is to do your personal spiritual inventory for the wrongs you've done against others so that you can ask for forgiveness, and the wrongs that have been done to you so that you can give yourself resolution and forgive those people so that you're not harvesting and holding on to that stuff. And so I kept resisting doing this because it's uncomfortable, right? The things that we need to do that will help us grow the most are uncomfortable. And so I see you. This is a normal thing to be uncomfortable about, but where growth happens is on the outside of the comfort zone. And as we scale and grow that comfort zone and push the bounds, that's where we grow. That's where the power is. So I decided to go on a backpacking trip alone in the woods. And I thought the scariest thing I would face on this experience was going to be my own mental chatter, my anxious thoughts. I'd hear something in the woods and think, oh gosh, I'm dead. There's, a bear out there, or a lion, or coyotes, whatever. And that indeed is not what happened. I got into the woods, had an amazing experience, did all of the journaling and all the things I needed, and felt so much peace and clarity in nature, in reflections on the lake around that. But then I got up to hike the last day out and I was alone. And when I was glancing down through really thick woods on the ground, there were these really, really big paw prints. And as I kept hiking, I saw another smaller set of paw prints. And I realized how unlucky I was in this moment, and that there was a mama bear and her baby cub. And it was also during a drought, so unusual bear activity. As I turned the corner, sure enough, there was Mama Bear. You can only imagine when your life flashes before your eyes until you've had this experience. How people describe it in the movies is how it happened for me. My life flashed before my eyes. All these experiences, all the things I just forgave. Every highlight, every low point, everything flashed before my eyes in slow motions. It's like this time trajectory stood out and things moved slow. And I just remember thinking, I came out here for peace, to find myself. I'm not ready to die. I'm not ready to give up. I want to live. I love my life. And so as Mama Bear was charging towards me and I was terrified and I thought I was going to die, I was brave enough to take a step forward, make myself big. And I kind of roared at her, right? So I'm not going to roar as loud as I would because I don't want to scare you guys, but I was like, back at Mama Bear, really loud. To the point where it sounded like two bears fighting in the woods if you were on the trajectory. And I had to do it not just once, but twice. No, the irony of this is it worked the second time, right? I faced and I charged my bear or my fear head on. And then how I related this to the audience through my TED Talk was, hopefully you never face a bear in the woods. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is in facing my fear head on, and in particular, this huge fear of a mama bear charging towards me and threatening my life, it made every other single fear in my life seem so small and so minuscule that it was easier to navigate. It was easier to deal with it. Like, I remember being afraid to ride my bike on a windy day, thinking that the wind would blow me over and I'd fall over sideways, clipped in, and have an accident into oncoming traffic. That fear went away after this. I kept telling myself when I did really scary things that were out of my comfort zone that you face a mama bear in the woods. If you could do that, you could do this. This is small. So when I did my TED Talk, the really crazy irony is the first time I did it, the microphone didn't work. It was cutting out. And I delivered this perfectly. I'd spent hours and months and weeks perfecting the content, working with multiple speaking coaches, practicing, rehearsing, all the things. And I nailed it. It was a drop the mic moment. And going through it, I also knew in my mind I was going to have to redo it because they didn't actually capture it through the video and audio visuals. So I get off the stage and my speaking coach, I look at him, I say, what are we going to do to fix this? And he says, you're going to have to do it again. And then they gave me the option. They said, you can do it right now or you can wait and do it later. And I said, I want to do it now. I just need to get this done. And boy, talk about facing your fears head on and sharing a message twice and trying to deliver this bucket list thing that's going to live out there forever and doing it again. And after I finished it, did a great job, probably not as great as the first time. It was just very interesting and serendipitous that I had to do my TED Talk twice and I had to face Mama Bear twice. Why am I sharing this story with you? Well, first of all, your objection of not sharing your message because your fear of not being perfect, your challenge of seeking perfectionism, your blame and victimhood on the platform and blaming social media is all BS. I see you, I hear you, but guess what? I have faced a bear in the woods. I have done a TEDx twice. I have had massive challenges. I have a spinal fusion. I have seen it. And I'm living proof that you can face this bear head on. You can face your perfectionism head on. You've got this. And guess what? There's somebody out there that needs to hear your story and your message, and it's going to stick. And it's going to change their life in profound ways that we cannot even fathom or imagine today. So here's my challenge to you. I dare you to put perfectionism in the backseat. Kick it to the freaking curb. I dare you to face and charge your bear head on. Perhaps right now that's doing your first Facebook or Instagram live. Perhaps it's pre-recording a video and posting it on LinkedIn. Perhaps it's sending an audio note and pitching yourself for a conference. Perhaps it's going after that TEDx stage. Perhaps it's starting your business, pitching something for sales. I don't care what it is. I dare you to believe in yourself enough that you can charge that bear head on. The fear method as a reminder, if you're still feeling a little concerned and you need a little extra oomph in your toolkit, these are the 4 steps you're going to use to charge your bear head on. The first step is you're going to face it. You can't ignore that perfectionism is a problem. You can't ignore your excuses and objections. Face them and apply them and put them in the back seat. Your objections are BS. They're blocking you. And they're blocking people that need to hear the solutions you have to their pain points. The second step is to embrace curiosity. Instead of the excuses, the victimhood, the inaction, like playing dead, the bear is like ignoring you, I want you to get curious about how you can take baby steps towards solving this. If you're afraid to do the Instagram live, do a live with friends. Practice. I'm not asking for perfectionism because, again, it doesn't exist. But do something. Life is too short not to. The third step is to advocate for what you want and need. If you need support, accountability, have an accountability partner. And you feel free to put a note in LinkedIn and say, Holly, I'm going to post my first Facebook Live. I'm going to tag you in it. Awesome. That makes you accountable. And then the 4th step is to reach out for the support that you need. This is important. It's so much easier to do anything in community. It's easier to face our bears when we do it together. That's why we have camping groups. That's why we do community. That's why we lived in tribes. And it's something we're missing today in this world. So lean in on your community, create your community. That's the best way you can continue commitment to growth and getting out of your comfort zone and seeing your blind spots is through your community. Face it, embrace curiosity, advocate for what you want and need, and reach out for support. Face your bear head on and charge it today. And then I want you to put in the comments below, what is the bear you're facing today? And what's the first step you're taking? And I want to celebrate you for being in the crowd of 1%, because so many people live in inaction, paralyzed, letting their life, lead on and being a zombie and choosing victimhood and letting somebody else decide what success is for them. You're better than that. You've got this.
Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. If the show inspired you, I ask that you subscribe and share it with your network. Let's spread inspiration together today.